Good morning, students. Welcome to our English class. For a change of taste, today we are going to do some literature, and the lesson we are going to take up in today's class is Karate Parrot. It has been written by Nicholas Horsburgh, so he's the author of this prose. Let us proceed with our lesson. A small summary about the story. This is a humorous story about a pet parrot. Sunil and his wife Sushmita live in a flat. His wife is fond of animals and is keen on keeping a pet, much to his dislike. One day, Sushmita purchases a parrot and decides to keep it as a pet due to the unique skills this bird possessed. After the bird is brought home, the bird demonstrates its skills and hurts Sunil in the process. So we come to know from this summary that this is a story about a pet parrot. Now this parrot is different from other birds, from other parrots, right? It has some unique skills, special abilities, and that is why that is one of the reasons that attracted Sushmita and made her decide to keep it as a pet. Now let us read on and find out as to what was so special about this parrot. And most interestingly, we can see that the author has named the prose Karate Parrot. Now all of you must be very familiar with the word karate. You have it as one of the activities in your school. But we need to know how karate, being a sport, is associated with a bird, and that too a parrot. We've heard about talking parrots, but very rarely have we heard about a karate parrot. So let us read more and find out the details about this story so that we are able to understand why it has been named Karate Parrot. Let us read. Sunil shuffled across the pavement on his crutches and approached Moby's Cafe on Church Street. The doors swung open automatically as he reached the entrance, and Sunil made his way slowly into the large room. Now we can understand from the very first line, Sunil shuffled across the pavement on his crutches. It is evident that Sunil was walking on the pavement with a lot of difficulty. He had taken the support of crutches. He was unable to walk on his own, and somehow he managed to drag his feet across the pavement and reach Moby's Cafe on Church Street. Now that's a coffee shop. As he arrived at the cafe, the doors opened and he gradually slowly walked into the cafe. Anil and Bala were sitting in their usual seats by the window overlooking the street. So the very word usual tells us that these three friends, Anil, Bala and Sunil, used to come to this cafe very often, and they used to occupy the same seats by the window which overlooked the street. So as usual, even that day, Anil and Bala, who had reached the cafe before Sunil, they occupied their usual seats by the window, and they were waiting for Sunil to come. They had seen Sunil make his way unsteadily across the pavement. So Sunil, it was evident from the way Sunil was walking, they could understand that he was finding it very difficult to walk his way to the cafe. So as soon as he came, they rose to welcome him when he entered the cafe, right? So they kind of helped him to enter the cafe. "Goodness me!" exclaimed Bala as Sunil approached their table. "What on earth have you been up to?" So, as soon as Sunil approached their table, Bala was really shocked and amazed. He was shocked to see Sunil on crutches, and he said, "Oh my God, what on earth have you been up to?" Means, what have you done that has led you to this state? "Been kicking the cat?" joked Anil. So Anil tried to bring in some humor into the situation. He tried to make it a little light. So he said that, "Were you kicking the cat?" Sunil heaved himself up to an empty chair and let the crutches fall to the floor. So somehow he managed to occupy a seat and allowed the crutches to drop to the floor, right? "You will never believe what happened to me," sighed Sunil as he sank with relief into the chair. "It's a long story, so you had better order me an espresso first." So, as soon as he managed to sit down, he was in a way relieved that he finally could relax and rest for a while. It was very, very difficult for him to walk with his crutches, and he was relieved to find a seat for himself. So when he found that his friends were anxious to know as to what had happened to him, he said that they would never believe what had happened, but since it's a very long story, so he would like to have some espresso, some coffee. "We were wondering where you had got to," said Bala. "We thought you had found some other cafe to go to," added Anil. So it's evident that these two friends, Bala and Anil, were waiting for Sunil for quite some time. Maybe Sunil had taken much longer time than expected, and so Bala said that, "We were thinking as to what had happened to you, what was taking you so long to reach the cafe." And Anil, it seems that he had a sense of humor. He had a quirky sense of humor. So he said that, "We thought that you have found some other cafe to go to." So then a waiter was summoned. So a waiter was called and Sunil's coffee was ordered. "Well, tell us then," exclaimed Bala. Now Bala could not anymore contain his excitement. He could not control his curiosity anymore. He wanted to know as to what had happened to Sunil, why he was walking with crutches. So as soon as they had ordered Sunil's coffee, he said, "Now come on, tell us what has happened to you." "Yes, what is this incredible story you have to tell us?" asked Anil. So Anil also asked him that, "Please tell us now, what do you have to say?" "You won't believe it," said Sunil, "but it is all perfectly true." So Sunil said that, "Maybe when I narrate you the story, when I narrate you the incident, you won't believe it, but it is true. It is a genuine story." The waiter arrived with a steaming cup of espresso and placed it on the table in front of Sunil. He looked curiously at Sunil's foot, which was in plaster. Now, as we know from the first sentence in this story, we come to know that these three friends used to come to this cafe very often. So maybe the waiter was also familiar with them. So he was also curious to know as to why Sunil's foot was plastered. So we get to know from here that Sunil's foot was injured, it was in plaster, and when the waiter saw it also, he was eager to know as to what had gone wrong. When the waiter had gone, Sunil helped himself to sugar and stirred the coffee. He gazed out of the window at the people passing by outside. "Come on," urged Anil. "What happened?" Sunil took a sip of coffee, wiped his mouth and smiled. So Sunil waited for the waiter to leave the table. He took some sugar and added it into his coffee. He stirred his coffee and he looked out of the window at the people passing by outside on Church Street. In the meantime, Anil, who was getting extremely impatient, he kind of urged Sunil, he prodded Sunil, he asked him that, now come on, enough of this suspense, please tell us what happened. So Sunil took a sip of his coffee, wiped his mouth and smiled. So because he smiled, we can kind of think that maybe the incident that he is about to narrate to his friends was not so serious. Yes, serious to the extent that it had injured him, but since he could still manage a smile, maybe he also was quite amused by the entire incident that he had experienced. Well, he began, on Wednesday I was fine, but on Thursday I ended up with this broken foot. So we get to know that the incident that he was about to narrate, which had caused his broken foot, took place on Thursday. Till Wednesday he was fine, he was hale and hearty, but it was on Thursday that he ended up with his broken foot. Sunil stuck out his foot for his friends to get a good look, so that his friends are able to take a better look of his foot, which was in plaster. It all started when my wife decided to get a pet, continued Sunil. So he said that this broken foot happened as a result of my wife who decided to get a pet. Now, who was his wife? Sushmita. Now, so he said that this broken foot happened because my wife decided to get a pet. And then he settled comfortably into his chair to tell them his story. As he had already said that it was a long story, so he made himself comfortable before he began to narrate the incident to his friends. Now with this we come to the end of today's lesson. In the next lesson we shall read and find out as to what is the connection between his broken foot and his pet. Now we can well imagine, students, that here he's talking about his pet parrot, and as the author names it, the karate parrot. So it's interesting, it's going to be interesting, and we will have to wait for the next class before we can find out what had happened to Sunil. So a quick recap. 3 friends, Sunil, Anil and Bala, meet at Movies Cafe on Church Street. They meet there very often. Anil and Bala were shocked to see Sunil on crutches, so they asked him what had happened. Yes, so Anil and Bala were waiting for Sunil to arrive, and when they saw Sunil on crutches, they were very, very concerned and they wanted to know what had happened. They ordered a cup of coffee for Sunil before he began to narrate his story to them. Sunil sipped his coffee and began his story. He said he ended up with his broken foot on Thursday and that it happened when his wife decided to bring home a pet. Then Sunil settled comfortably into his chair to tell them his story. So this is a small gist of what we had read and learned so far, right? So this is a very, very nice and humorous story. We will continue it in the next class. So till then, you will read the matter in the video that is given in the video, go through the video again so that it is fresh on your mind when we come back in the next class. Now we have, you must have noticed children, that at the bottom of each slide words and meanings were given, right? Those were the meanings of the difficult words. So you will learn them and try and use them in your sentences. Now these are few synonyms that we can learn from this story. By synonyms we mean words which have the same meaning. Slowly, gradually, welcome, greet, empty, vacant, curiously, inquisitively, story, tale. Now remember students, it is very, very essential when we read a story, when we read a prose or a poem, we come across many new words. So we should try and use those words in our everyday language while we are writing answers. So this will only help you to enhance your vocabulary and your writing skills, right? So this is the bibliography. That's the name of the story. That's the name of the course book from where the story has been taken. Revised New Oxford Modern English Course Book 5. So thank you children. Till the next class. Bye-bye. Take care. And hope all of you have understood and enjoyed today's lesson as much as I enjoyed taking it for you all. Right? Bye-bye.